After a very long time, Chelsea have finally gotten themselves a striker who could prove to be as prolific as Didier Drogba. And of course, by making this statement, we don't mean to compare the two, since both men offer different qualities. Indeed, Didier Drogba's impact at Chelsea can never be forgotten, and the Ivorian is a true Premier League legend. Werner has some way to go in order to get anywhere near the status of the club's legendary striker, but the young German has all the tools necessary to become a fan favourite at Stamford Bridge. After plundering goals for fun at RB Leipzig, Werner decided to further his career outside of Germany. With Liverpool unable to make a swift move, Frank Lampard managed to convince the striker that he would do far better in London. So today, we're going to take a rather deep dive into the ability of Timo Werner and what exactly is it that makes him a great player for Chelsea for years to come. But of course, you need to make sure that you always have a one-stop shop to watch football games, right? Well, you want to know how we never miss a match? With Fubo TV, you can stream any game, anytime, anywhere. Use our link in the description to start for free and watch your favourite teams live. Overview. Timo Werner is a very dynamic striker who is capable of playing either as a long striker or as part of a duo. The German is a complete forward, he's clinical and he has great off-the-ball movement. He ended up scoring 25 goals in the Bundesliga last season, which is a sign of a player who really knows his way to score. Werner relies heavily on movement, space creation, positioning and tactical flexibility, which is why he was an integral part of the RB Leipzig side that put on a great show and could have won the Bundesliga title had they been more consistent. While he is a striker, Werner's heat map seems to suggest that he likes cutting inside from the left before unleashing a shot from his right foot. How did Werner play at Leipzig? To begin with, Werner usually played in either a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 formation throughout the previous campaign. Julian Nagelsmann normally prefers operating with two strikers, with Werner mostly playing as more of a deep-lying forward or a poacher. Due to the fact that both strikers are expected to be very fluid in their movements, there was always an element of surprise. Throughout the campaign, we saw Leipzig mostly relying on vertical passing to create chances, and this is where Werner's ability to find space in and around the last third mattered the most. The German is really good at pulling defenders towards himself, thereby allowing his teammates to enjoy more space in the opposition half. Since he's very much adept at quick passing combinations, Werner is able to either play a really good final ball or get on the end of a good ball before finishing things off. Link-up play. As we mentioned previously, Werner is a great passer and has excellent movement. This allows him to create space. Moreover, if there are certain games where his team is struggling to hold onto the ball, Werner would drop deep in order to give his teammates more options. This clearly shows that Werner can even become a playmaker if the need arises. Werner's willingness to drop deep is a great foil for those teams that go for a high-pressing mentality, since that would make it hard for them to pick him up when he's off the ball. Another thing that really makes Werner a successful striker is that he makes a lot of diagonal runs, which disrupt the defensive line and can create a lot of confusion. Now at Chelsea, Timo Werner does seem like a player who's unlikely to get a lot of time to get used to his new environment. Last season, Frank Lampard showed that he would be a manager who would want his players to play quick, attacking football. If you look at Chelsea's attacking moves from the previous season, the Blues attackers demonstrated great off-the-ball movement, which make it easy for the likes of Tammy Abraham and Christian Pulisic in particular to wreak havoc in the final third. This is why Timo Werner fits in perfectly at Stamford Bridge. The German is exceptional whether he has the ball or is looking to find space to receive the pass. Moreover, Werner's dribbling and ability to take several different shots make him one of the most dangerous strikers in the game. He likes making great runs into open channels and will either go for the goal himself or set up one of his teammates who's in a better position. Moreover, you can never predict Werner's movement, since he can either use his effective dribbling to move into a more central area or take a shot. Indeed, the youngster doesn't shy away from testing the goalkeeper from a long way out, so you will be seeing him take things on his own a lot in England. Sometimes it will be frustrating, but sometimes it will be a thing of beauty. Last season, Werner showed himself to be one of the most effective dribblers in Europe. He averaged 6.24 dribbles per 90 minutes and boasted a healthy 51.5% success rate. This makes him the 20th best dribbler in Europe's top 5 leagues. When it comes to progressive movements, Leipzig were one of the best in Europe at this last season. This further elucidates the effectiveness of Werner when it comes to connecting the dots during build-up plays. He would mostly start games playing down the left before drifting into central areas, taking on defenders while dribbling with both feet. Such ambidextrous movements don't make life easy for any defender, and we saw some of that during his Premier League debut against Brighton and Hove Albion. While his dribbling and unpredictable nature makes him an effective player, Werner's game has a few more elements that will help him succeed in England. He's as intelligent as they come, and due to his great off-the-ball movement and great decision-making, he ends up creating a lot of space for his teammates to work around. Just like Roberto Firmino of Liverpool, who is a great reader of the game and drags defenders out of position, Werner does the same and more. In fact, the German's goal-scoring exploits make him a far deadlier prospect than the Brazil international. The young striker's movement and spatial understanding is something that cannot be understated, since this is exactly what makes him such an effective player. So how would Werner fit in at Chelsea? Well, he did make his debut in a more central role, but we did see him move into a wider role, since that allows him to enjoy more space and enough yards to cut inside. Under Lampard, Chelsea are a more fluid attacking side. They love having more possession on the ball, but the most interesting thing about this side is that the formation is flexible enough, which basically means that Lampard is able to change player roles and positions based on the sort of team they're facing. They like playing the ball from the back. Kepa would pass the ball to the centre-backs, who would then look towards a more attack-minded teammate. Due to the dynamism of midfielders such as N'Golo Kante, Mason Mount, Jorginho and Mateo Kovacic, forwards are able to make more off-the-ball movements and find space for themselves. The fullbacks, on the other hand, are given the freedom to play high up the pitch, which adds more options to the team's forwards. Chelsea prefer to play with two attacking midfielders, which allows other players to make overlapping runs regularly. In fact, Frank Lampard demands his centre-forwards to be always on the move, on the lookout for space, and be very aware of what's around them. The strikers are also expected to drop deep and help in link-up play. Chelsea's biggest shortcoming is that they tend to huff and puff against low-block defences and are forced to be persistent and relying a lot on their forward players, keeping looking out for some space. This is why Chelsea need a striker who can play both as a poacher and as a deep-lying forward. In order to be a poacher, you have to have serious pace and great anticipation. Werner obviously fits the mould here and will thrive against sides that play a more expansive brand of football. Time to press. When not in possession, Chelsea go for a high-pressing system to cut off passing lanes and win back possession. For this to work out, you need to have players who are good at pressing. Werner, once again, fits the bill since his incredible work rate and pace will make life difficult for opponents, especially those defenders who aren't too comfortable on the ball. During the game against Brighton, Timo Werner started out as a left-sided forward and was paired up with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. The pairing was a little strange, given the fact that the Englishman is normally deployed as a midfielder and isn't the most productive number 10 out there either. Chelsea haven't used a two-striker system a lot under Frank Lampard. During that game, Werner had 3 shots blocked from the right side, while he only had 1 shot on target, and that came when he managed to cut inside and tried to test the goalkeeper from a very narrow angle. But it was clear to see that Werner would be more effective for Chelsea if he's positioned closer to the goal, especially against teams that defend in numbers. The penalty that he won against Matt Ryan is a prime example of how the German can be a live wire inside or around the penalty area. His pace forced Ryan into making a mistake, and this is something that we'll be seeing quite a lot of this season. While Tammy Abraham started the game from the bench and didn't feature, we're yet to see how a Werner-Abraham partnership could work. Nonetheless, it will be really exciting to see these two pair up. Similarly, once Kai Havertz finds his rhythm in England, he'll also be able to participate in build-up plays quite effectively, and that will further help Werner put himself in a position where he's scoring goals on a regular basis. All in all, Chelsea have finally managed to sign a striker who has everything you need in a player and more. Werner has great pace, is an intelligent reader of the game, is strong off the ball, knows his way to goal, and has great dribbling skills. It will definitely be surprising for all of us if the former Leipzig man ends up struggling for goals. He has a great supporting cast behind him and is now playing under a manager who prefers his players to be as expressive as they can on the pitch.